I'm doing the Eccentric Snowman. Here's the, I made this one yesterday, so I'm doing a little trial run to see what tools I was going to need today. I start out with a piece of, well, this is walnut on the top, and then maple on the bottom, spalted maple that I had sitting around. I make a lot of these. I use any kind of light wood I can get, you know, ash or maple, birch, whatever you can get on the bottom that's light colored, and then the walnut on the top makes a nice hat. I've already put a tenon on this and trued it up. This is kind of a longer one than what I normally use, but it should work, I guess.
How'd you glue that walnut on there?
I used Tight Bond 2, and I just clamp it and let it dry overnight. And it tends to hold really, really good.
Just end grain to end grain?
End grain, yeah. Did that line up or not? I want to make sure it's perfectly lined. Hang on, I'm going to cut that out.
Believe me. Over here. There we go.
It'll fry that second roll.
I don't want to spend my time in the hospital like this.
Okay, I'm going to recut the end here because I have an indent from when I had this between centers, and I don't want this to automatically fall into that indent if it's not perfectly centered.
Where's that shield we had made up?
Oh yeah, we're supposed to have a shield here.
Oh, I mean, I've got mine here, but...
We probably should get the shield out. Okay.
Especially with the holidays coming up, you know?
Okay, there we go. I'm going to run this in slowly so I don't pull that thing off center. Even though I'm doing off center work, I still want it to be true in some areas here, you know. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is true this thing up with my roughing guide. Okay, I'm pretty true here. Let me find my, need some of my stuff out here. Okay, I'm gonna go through here and figure out where I want, I'm gonna have, like that, like this one here, I'm gonna have 4 balls on the bottom plus the hat. So, I figured I'm gonna draw it backwards from the head on down. So there's gonna be my head. Next ball I want it to be a little bigger than what the head is. And then this one's going to be a little bigger than that one. And then my bottom's going to come all the way down here. I'm going to make this a little thick on the bottom here because I don't want this to break away later. Because I'm going to be turning and I don't want the pressure to snap away part of that, and I won't be able to find my bottom again. So that's going to be my 4 balls for my snowman. Let me cut the head out now, and then I will start going eccentric on this thing. And I'm going to try to find all my tools here. I'm going to cut the top here too, right along the hat. There's my camera on here, scraper. Got them on. One of them hit off the bottom. a face shield when you're doing this. That big piece is hitting me. Okay, there's gonna be my head. My favorite spindle gouge. My favorite spindle gouge is my half-inch gouge. I love this one. I use this a lot. Even though it's kind of half-inch, you can get into a lot of really tight areas with it. There's trying to focus now. There it goes. It probably doesn't like this moving here. Okay, there's my head. It looks a little big though. We might have to cut that down a little bit when we get into it later. But I can always go back and get to this final mark. As a matter of fact, when I start the hat, we'll start the hat at this same mark. Now I'm going to do some offset stuff here. And I don't know if you can get a light over here. We're going to have to move that light.
Try going to the end of the camera. Looks like it's okay.
Okay. What I'm going to do is,
Once you kill the overhead, maybe it'll kill this one.
Okay.
And then more light. It'll get it brighter.
I'm going to go in here and I'm going to put a little light off center here. Right there. And then I'll do another one out here a little farther. Right there. My higher up marks here, I'm going to use the inner circle. The farther down I go, the more I want to pull this out because it's not going to make much of a difference if I use the same mark all the way down, because that's what I do in that one. It's hard to tell that that second ball up is off-center, even though it is. It didn't move it by very much because the farther you are away from the bottom here, the bottom's not going to move. I'm not very far off-center down there, as opposed to up here, I'm quite a ways. Get to the hat, you're way off-center. So that's going to be my marks. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line there. Okay, here's going to be my first one. And then I want to do about a third. So here's going to be my second one. And then I'm going to draw another third. So I don't know if you can see that. Not there, you can see that. Now I want to number those so I know which one is which when I get started here. But I'm also going to use this one up here so I know. So this is number 1. Then this is number 2. And this one's number 3. So now that we got our indexes, these are going to be the 3 stations I use for the 3 balls. They're all going to be off-center. And then the very bottom I'll go back to straight so that it stands up straight. See, now you could do this between centers and just have the same thing down here. You could leave the bottom one, centered the whole time, and then just move the top one around to get your different effect.
Put 3 center marks in the bottom, could you do?
Yeah, that base there I did, that's how I did that, was between centers with 3 marks, and then I turned them sideways. So my first one here, I'm going to get into that first groove on my line number 1, which is going to be right there. So there's, what's that?
I just wanted you to move that way.
Yeah, so now I'm on I have 2 grooves here coming in and out. I'm on the inside groove, and I'm on line number 1. So that's gonna be my first station here to get to the next body. Tighten this back up and leave this between centers. And now I can position this hanging on in a smaller. A little smaller to get in.
What speed you gonna turn that one on?
As fast as I can without vibrating. So I'm gonna slowly turn it up until it starts to vibrate, and then I'm gonna hold it at that spot.
Think so?
What are you doing now?
Okay, I'm gonna see if I can move past that vibration and get some speed on it. I'm gonna go right there, about 840. I have that with maple that's got sapwood, where it's white, dark, and you almost get the epileptic seizures, you know, trying to watch it go by. Okay, this is and I'm not going to use my scraper on this because I don't want this to chip out real bad. I'm going to use my half-inch spindle gouge and cut this down. And I'm looking up here, I'm looking at this side, now this side, I can't see the shadow here. I can't see down here very well, but up here I can really see once I get going where I'm at. And you can see in the middle there how far I got to go to get to that solid piece. So that's where I'm headed down to, is that solid piece. I want this piece to be a little bigger than this one. And I'm a little bigger. Not a whole lot, but I'm a little bigger than that one. And once again, I chipped this out. That happened yesterday on me too. This is really punky wood through there. There's a spot through the middle of this that's really punky and it tears out easily. So I might clean that up. So this is looking pretty good. I want to get this fairly smooth, although I can come back and sand this later. So let me get this top edge here and then I'm going to go back. Let me get that tool mark out of there. I don't like the sand, so I'm going to try and clean this up. Now, if you wanted to, you could sand this, but there's going to be a lot of power sanding involved here afterwards and carving, because this is not going to get turned out here, this piece. Some of it is, but a lot of it's going to be there, and we're going to have to take that out with a carver of some sort. So right now, I'm going to back up to my last position.
If you tried to turn that out, you'd hit the head, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I hit the head up here when I was coming through already, so.
What about a skew? Would a skew be better?
I don't know, I'm not that good with a skew. I don't even, when I do my regular snowman, I don't use a skew because I'll use a skew on the hat and doing some little things, but I'm just not that talented to do a skew on this big of a radius. I do it on a smaller radius, but I'm still working on it. I'm still refining my skills with a skew. Okay. So now back to this one. I'm gonna meld these a little bit. And this gives me a second chance to maybe make this head a little smaller because this is getting to be the same size. So I might, I'm gonna recut that, try to get this here mark on the back where I hit it, and define that a little bit. See, now I can see, I can get some of this out here. You can see where it's coming through. So I'm gonna. Okay. The rest of this is going to have to come out with carving. So, all right. So there's the first ball. Let's see. We're going to go to the second one now, and I'm going to go to position 2, and I'm going to go just a little bit beyond the first groove, just a touch beyond it.
Going between rings now?
Not all the way between, but a touch, yeah. So now we're going to do this one. This guy here.
Run that by us again, Doug. You're online.
I do 3 lines here.
Yep.
I numbered them. So this first body here, this was centered.
Yep.
So this one I did on the first groove on line number 1. So that was where I cut this ball. Now the second ball, I'm going to go onto line number 2,
Okay.
and I've gone between the grooves. So I'm swinging out just a little more on the top here, but down here it's not that big of a difference.
Okay.
So this is going to be on number 2, and then the last one I'll do on the 3rd position on the 3rd groove. So it's going to be way out, and I'll cut that bottom ball. So this is going to be that ball.
Now, Doug, those are 120 degree, so apart those lines.
Yes, yeah. The best I could eyeball it.
Do you have a particular amount of measurement from center out to where you're placing it?
I just eyeballed it.
What, about an inch?
I would say that it was about maybe not an inch. I would think the first groove, I'll bet I had, you can see it there now. Well, it is about an inch.
Yeah.
Yeah, about an inch, and then I did maybe 3/16 to the next one.
And it's important to be consistent about that when you move around.
Not really. I mean, it's all eccentric. You know, this is pretty wonky when you get done anyways. But if you're doing like when I did my bowl, I mean that base, I measured that. I indexed that out and got all my marks on it so that it was perfect. Because when you turn that base, it doesn't come out triangular on the bottom if you didn't spend the time to get your marks. So, and then when it turns out at the top, it was actually, before I sanded it, there was 6 sides up here. But they wouldn't have been even if I hadn't spent the time to index that out. With the snowman, yeah. How much time do you want to spend on it? Okay, once again, I can see now my shape underneath there. Let's see if I get past this wobble. Yeah, we'll try that. And then I'm going to head down to where I can see it solid. cutting these, I can dig this right in there like you can see me doing, as long as by the time I get down to the bottom of this ball, if I'm parallel this way, and to the center, I gotta be going towards the center. I can't be up here at the top. But if I'm down here going towards the center, I can turn this as I'm going and push it right in like I'm doing. If you don't have it straight this way, as soon as this edge hits this side, you're gonna have a big catch. So that's the trick to doing that. When you want to get all the way down in there, you need to have a fingernail grind on it. And I have another one here that I like. If I really get into the tight areas, I have a detail gouge that's more pointed than this one, that I can get right inside some of those. But as long as I'm straight up and down, when I get to this point, it won't catch. I can bore right in there and define that.
Would one of those diamond-shaped carbides work on that?
I don't know.
It's scrape more, I think.
I don't like scrapers, yeah. I can get a better cut with this than any scraper, you know. I mean, this already here is pretty close to, like, you know, probably 300 grit, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, like when I do snowman, I usually start sanding at 220, you know, and finish up at 320. I only use 2 grades of sandpaper and I'm done, so. What's that? Well, and I always back up anyways to kind of clean those out, so we're headed back there now. This one's pretty good. Okay, so let's see, we need to get back to number 1. Hello. A little bit under here, I'm gonna take that out. Okay, now we're going to go down to the bottom. So we did number 1, we did number 2, so now we're going to work on number 3. Number 3, we're going to the outside. I'm not cutting the bottom, because the bottom I'm gonna go back to straight. So I'm just cutting this one. Okay, now we gotta back up to this one, take out that in between there. So that was number 2. Okay, now, at this point, what I would do is grind and sand all of this before I go and do the hat. Because once I do the hat, I'm going to take out some of these marks, and I'm not going to be able to come back and find these areas. But right now, I can go back and find every one of these areas, and I can sand these, and I can work on, well, basically sanding and grinding. Yeah.
And what do you do to carve or grind those?
Well, I have several methods. Because this is all my grain is going this way, I can just use a grind. I can use a carving tool to get in there, which is kind of time consuming, but it does work. You know, I can carry all that out. But typically, I like to use a grinder.
Oh, yeah.
You come in here. And right now, that's not very pretty, but you know, when you look at this, those balls are all they're not round at all. They're completely tore up. Once I get at that point, then I just come in here with my sander. I think that's 180. Then I'll come in here and put it in the right direction. And just kind of smooth it out. So that's the basic idea, and that right there is pretty close to what those are now. I'll sand them all down, get it all smooth, and I'll do all these. When I get them all done, you can start to see my shape here. And then when I have all that done, here's another tool I use. It worked great until I broke the handle off. A little microplane that's square, because it works really good to get in here and work on these edges, you know, and you can take them out.
Do you wear a dust mask when you're normally?
I have a dust extractor that works really well. So it's sitting right here and it sucks it all away. Otherwise, if I can't get it all out, I have a trend air mask I wear. So, but yeah, typically I do not breathe in all this dust. So yeah, these little microplanes work really well. I'll clean all that out and get this groove in there, because I'll usually go around and get my groove back. So that's how I get that. Now let's do the hat. The hat, my bottom part of the hat's going to be straight, right where it's at. My top, I'm going to have it go probably the same way his head's going, off that way. So, make sure this is tight.
So do you put the hat on one of the angles then?
The top of the hat, I'm going to run at an angle like on that one there. Yeah, I'm going to angle the top. But I'm going to get my bottom part first. Oops, I never did the bottom here. Hang on, let's get the bottom in there.
Or you don't have any center left?
Yeah. Doesn't matter if that. Now I can go back and let's do that. Go back to number 3, and I clean that line up a little better and make it easier to sand that out. Which one was number 3? Number 3. Which this will take very little sandpaper to get that one. I'll just grind that real quick and clean that up, and that'll be done. So now we're going to go back to center.
What center are you going to use for the top of the hat? Does it matter?
I'm just going to pick one. I'll look which way I want the hat to go and move it the opposite direction. Guess I need to sharpen that. I'm gonna go about almost halfway. This is where I use a skew, because this end grain here, and can you see that? That never comes on its wrong screen, but it always tears out when you're cutting this end grain with, I don't care what you use, except for the skew. The skew will clean that up pretty nice.
If you want to show it again, I got
You got it there? Yeah, there you go. Go ahead and hit that.
Get on this camera. Yeah, that shows it.
Yeah, see right here, it tears it out really bad. You can get in there with a spindle gouge and kind of cut that, but it still tears it out. A skew will cut that off clean. No sanding required there. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. to figure out which way I want my hat to bend. I think I want my hat to bend the same way his head's going, to make it look like maybe the wind's blowing it over. So that means I want to move my end over here to the opposite direction. So I'm kind of between 1 and 2 there because I want my head to be, if my head's level there. Well, it is back kind of towards the right. Right, I'm going back towards number 1. Well, no, because then I'm going to be at that way. I want the center to be here, so I'm going opposite of number 1.
Because it's going to angle a whole lot more than those balls did because it's closer to the tail.
Yeah, I'm not going to go as far. I'm going to go about.
You're going to go in between them.
Yeah, I'm shy of number 1 groove. And I'm across from number 1. I'm kind of between 2 and 3 because I want the hat to come this way.
Nobody will ever know.
Nobody is. It's whatever you want to do. You know? So.
Whatever you're going to design it with. So that spindle gouge cuts pretty good square corner, right?
Yeah, that detail one does.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, it's got a very shallow flute.
Yep.
And then I hit the grind that away. Normally I have it ground one more time, but I haven't taken the time to take that heel off.
You don't know what angle it is, do you?
44? 44 degrees? Serious? I think all my spindle gouges are 44 degrees, or somewhere in that area.
I can't see.
Yeah.
I gotta look at it before we go.
Yeah.
I think it is 44. So.
He thinks, but he doesn't know himself.
Okay. Now for our last cut here. And I can see the center there. What I want to shoot for is the same diameter as this. Roughly the same diameter that this is. I'm going to shoot for here. You kind of need a little bend in there to match those two.
The top of the hat's just bent, not all of it.
Yeah, and I'm going to cut it off at an angle too when I'm done.
Yeah, so it's
To make it look like it's tipping over like that one is.
exactly. So it's square with the top end.
Yeah, so it's square with the top of the hat. See now, let's see, I just barely have my number 1 hole left.
You can do that with a parting tool, couldn't you? Cut more.
Yeah. Well, it's going to cut it square though, to the top. I want it square to, I want it square to this angle here is what I want. So I'm going to cut it like that.
Do you have an angled parting tool?
I'll have to work on that.
37.
So now I'm gonna blend these two.
Yeah, like Ron does, you know, you cut real fast.
All right.
I like your technique.
See, now this won't take much to sand this out. You know, go through, sand that down. It still doesn't look right until you cut that off.
Kind of loosen up.
Let's see, my hat's coming this way, so I want to cut it off like that.
Gonna turn the lathe on for that?
Yeah, turn the lathe on real quick here. While I'm holding this, go ahead, Pete.
I'll watch instead, okay?
Right down your center.
So, yeah, that's kind of the basis. I just gotta go through now and grind off these, sand it, and throw some paint on it, give them a scarf, and that's the Eccentric Snowman. That's our challenge. Thank you. So that's our challenge in 2 months. Something off-center, I don't care what it is, anything off-center. You can do bowls that are off-center, you know, where you cut the bowl and then move it sideways and cut the dish out. So, but that's the basis of it. So yeah,